We are fully immersed in the holiday spirit here at 100 Huntley Street, and so it only seems fitting to highlight some new Christmas music that you can add to your collection this year by gospel artist, author, producer Anthony Evans. He's here in the studio to tell us all about it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
We're so excited, and we're going to hear your Christmas music just in a little bit.
Okay, yes.
But let's talk about it. The Greatest Gift, that's your new release.
Yes, it is. And the album just came out of, I was actually producing music for a holiday film in February of last year. And we were in the studio, and I was like, let's just keep going. Let's just be in the Christmas spirit in February. And then we all have been given, the premise of it is we've all been given the greatest gift. This is the beginning of our salvation story, and sometimes the holidays is a hard time for people, especially our family. We had a lot of loss around the holidays a few years ago, so it's a reminder that even if things are hard, we've been given the greatest gift, and we have something to celebrate.
That's so good that you would say that, and you're right about this Christmas season. I was going to actually ask you about that because, not to dive too deep too fast,
okay.
But is it 8 family members within 2 years?
Yeah, and it landed at our, well, there was some loss after that, but Christmas 2019 was the last 5 days of my mother's life. So it was actually a horrible time for our family, and we had to cling to the promises of God, that he's going to work all this together for our good, and that brought some beauty back into the holiday season. But we've had to reframe the holidays because at this time I'm reminded of some of the greatest loss our families have ever experienced.
That's right. And you're right. You know, so many people right now are experiencing their Christmas first, right? The first without somebody that they loved. Do you have any kind of advice or insight? I mean, there's no way to make it easier. It's going to be hard, but is there a way to get through it?
Yeah, the way I've gotten through it, I can just say what I've done, is really understanding that God's promises, as trite as this may sound, are just true. And that's the bottom line. He's going to finish what he started in each and every single one of us. He's going to work all things together for our good. And when I started to believe what he said, in spite of the way I feel, and walk in the direction of his truth, my feelings followed my feet. I always say that. My feelings followed just hanging on to his truth. And slowly your emotions will catch up with the truth.
Yeah, I really believe that when you don't understand what God's doing or what he's allowing, or however you frame that theologically, you rely on his character, his nature. You go, I don't understand, but you're good. I don't understand, but you're faithful. And you have to declare that over yourself, because how else are you going to get through in that moment when you're just confused? Like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah, that's how you get through, literally. And that the peace that comes, the peace that's associated with what you just said, that to me is the greatest gift.
And now for this Christmas album, let's go back to that, because you've actually written some original music for that. So tell me about that.
I wrote a couple original songs. I don't do too much original at Christmas time because people want to hear the songs they know. It's tradition, so we did a lot of that. But a couple originals came about. I was like, this feels right to do these. One's called My Holiday, and it's just my Christmases aren't. No more. As you get older, it's not about the stuff. It's about the people you love, your health, those things. So that has become what My Holiday's about. And then the other song's called He Is, which is a reminder that all this beautiful stuff is nice, but he's the reason why we're celebrating.
That's so good. I mean, when you're approaching those Christmas classics, so now I'm wondering, as a producer, people want to hear Silent Night the way they've always heard it.
Yes.
But then again, you want something unique about your album. So how are you approaching these songs?
It's a very delicate recipe of making sure you're true to this melody that the people know, but also giving it like a fun lift. And I think that there's a way to do it where most people are okay because they can still sing along, even though musically it sounds a little different. Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to hearing more of those songs. And today, of course, we're going to hear one. Now, you've been actually having a really interesting connection to Hollywood that you really didn't anticipate.
Not at all.
So how did that happen?
It happened over a decade ago. I was on the show The Voice. I had a moment where I was called. I was with a friend of mine who y'all may know. His name is Jeremy Camp, a Christian artist. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
He was sitting with me, and I got a call to be on this new show, and he was like, do it. I was in between record deals. So bottom line is I did the show, got connected to a producer. Like I walked off the stage and got a call to work in Hollywood. So I went there thinking it'll be a short 2 months, and it's 12 years later, and I've been invited into rooms with some of the greatest musicians and singers of all time to work with them. So it's a great way to take my ministry outside of the four walls of church and into a world that I believe needs it.
And what do you think about that? When you kind of have a plan, like you're working the plan, you have a direction that you're going, and then God all of a sudden, does something completely different. How do you negotiate those moments of transition?
Now I negotiate them by remembering what he did in the other moments where he had a different plan than I had, and I got irritated at it. And then down the road, I was like, oh, sorry, this plan's way better. You know what I mean? So that's how I do it now. When he gives me an opportunity that's kind of like, what is going on right now? I know that there is a bigger picture. My dad always says, if you're at a parade and you see the float that's right in front of you, but there's always this view from like the blimp, like the Goodyear blimp would be over the parade and you'd see every float down the road. And he's like, that's God's perspective. You see what's coming around the corner and he has a big picture of, yeah, but hold on, because here's something else coming that you're not aware of.
There's a meme I was thinking about today. It's a little girl holding on to a teddy bear. She doesn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, give it over, give it over. And he's holding a gigantic teddy bear behind his back.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't want to give it. Yeah, that's what I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good thing to remember. I was thinking about that today. You know, you mentioned your family. Now, you come from a well-known family. Can you unpack for me just all who's in it? Like, it's amazing.
Well, our dad is Dr. Tony Evans. Our mom, Dr. Lois Evans, who is now with the Lord, but she helped foster and build a global ministry with him. And then there are four of us. Crystal Evans Hurst, an author and speaker, my oldest sister. The oldest, to this day, she's still telling me what to do. You know, the oldest sister, excuse me, then there's Priscilla Shire, my sister, who is a Bible study teacher that accidentally became this actress that's been in movie after movie. And then there's me, the singer, and my brother, Jonathan Evans, who now is one of the pastors at the church my parents started, and he's a beast speaker. So that's the four of us.
Oh my gosh. Now, is there pressure to grow up in that family? Like, or is it hard to find your own identity? Like, who is Anthony?
Yeah, because I have my dad's name. So, me being called Anthony and him being called Tony was intentional, just so I could have a little bit of space between me and him, our identities, because everything was just getting so large when I was younger.
Yeah.
But my parents were really intentional, especially my mom, very intentional on, no, you have a specific purpose, you have a specific identity, and putting that in my head. As soon as she'd hear somebody be like, are you going to be a preacher too? She'd be like, you don't have to do that, right? Like that. So that would be the balance.
Bless her.
Yeah.
That's so helpful, because I don't think people can really understand, unless you grow up in a family like that or a family of very accomplished people, the pressure to be like your dad. Like, Tony Evans 2.0.
Yeah, literally. It'd be like if Michael Jordan had a son and the son touched a basketball. Everybody'd be like, ooh, what are you going to do? You have to just, so it has to, God has worked in my life to create my own a specific fingerprint and identity, because ultimately he doesn't have grandkids. Like he has you, like you are his child, and it's not because of somebody else. It's because of him wanting to have a specific relationship with you.
Oh, I think that's so encouraging. And, another thing you've done is you have your own production company. You still work with your family. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called Sherman James Productions, which are my grandfather's names, because my grandfather's made a decision that this family is going to be different on both sides. Like they made a decision before my parents knew each other. Our family is going to be different. And the ministry that anybody's experienced is because of those two men and my grandmother's making a decision about this family. So Sherman James Productions is what it's called. It came out of a time in my life where I was kind of being told no a lot, and you don't fit, you're not quite what we're looking for. And so I just started doing it on my own. So that rejection was a setup for this now, which is me getting to produce a lot of the events my family does together, the tours me and my sisters do, the music for these films, working with these artists. Yeah, it's so great. This album we're talking about now all came from that.
For people who are watching who are kind of like, I don't understand what's happening in my life, or I have these dreams and I haven't been able to achieve them yet. I feel like I'm just kind of in this, stuck place in my life. Now that you can look back and see what God's done for you, what advice would you have for them?
My advice, I actually, the other day I was thinking about the fact that a lot of us go to the gym and it's kind of a thing. And then one of my friends was talking to me about the benefits and how good he feels. But then he said, it's been a lot of resistance training. And in my brain, I'm like, anytime you feel resistance, it is training for you to end up where you want to be. And it's so hard sometimes when you're being resisted, but that training strengthens you for what God has for you. So that's what I would say. And he's also faithful to complete any and everything he started in each and every single one of us. That is another one of the greatest gifts. He's going to do what he said. Bottom line.
Period.
That's it.
I love that. It's Christmas. We're all running around a little bit with like chickens with our head cut off, especially you as you're releasing this new Christmas music. How can we really keep our relationship with Jesus authentic in this season and really remember like what it's actually about? Not all the things that our culture is telling us it's about.
I think it's intention. I really believe at this point, our culture is so loud. We hold a phone in our hand where we can just swipe and be swallowed into this other world. I think it literally has to be so intentional because there's so many distractions. So even if it's a few moments for me, I'm starting a new practice in my life that I'll tell you about. You didn't ask. Is like, I'm going to put my phone in another room when it's time to shut down the day, put my phone in another room and really just spend some time with the Lord. Just get intentional that way. Because right now, I literally will pick up my phone 30 seconds after my intention of spending time with the Lord. You know what I mean? Just to be honest.
Notification pops
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's like,
totally.
oh, I got to get this real quick. So that's just one of the ways. It's just, it will look different, subjective to everybody's life, but just creating moments of intention to remind yourself of who he is and what he's promised.
I think it's a good challenge when we listen to your song today about Christmas. If you're watching, put your phone in a different room and just spend that time. I think sometimes we avoid really facing ourselves or facing God. And that's what the phone does for us. It's like we don't want to get authentic. We don't want to get real. But today's the day. I think today we should do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. And I'm so looking forward to hearing your music.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.